Don't do like don't do what Rudy Gobert did. You ever see that? Like the first few days of COVID, Rudy Gobert like took. Did you guys see this? He freaking. Like,
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I saw that. Hey guys.
Hey guys.
This is your second training camp, full camp. What did you learn from last year, and should we expect to see a lot of similarities in how you ran camp last year with this year?
You always are going to adapt of things that you do in camp, and so there's some differences of what we're doing this year, as you guys can see from the schedule, and so we're just always looking to make our process as good as we possibly can for the players, for the players to be ready to play, for the players to be healthy to play, and just. That's something that we go through each time, right? Is what can we do better this year? And that question's not just asked. That's asked at the end of OTAs. That's asked at the end of rookie camp. That's asked at the end of the draft process. That's asked at the end of a joint practice. It's asked at the end of training camp. And it's not just asked to the coaching staff. We're talked through it with the front office. We talked through it with the media, with Bob. We talked through it with the strength staff, everybody. So there'll be some differences as you guys have seen, and look forward to getting out there and working.
Now, the expectations are seemingly high after the roster construction this offseason. You've been around a long time and you've seen both sides of the coin there. How do you feel about that coming into the season?
Yeah, I feel like this is Philly. Obviously, there's always going to be expectations, and at the end of the day, we got to start that with camp. I mean, we got to start that with having a good camp, having a competitive camp, getting guys ready to play for the start of the season. So for us, we're just trying to stay in the moment and make sure we're evaluating the team and getting the best possible players that we possibly can get ready for Detroit.
Nick, you talk so much about Jalen getting the second year in your offense. How do you expect that to show out on the field?
Yeah, similar to how it played out in OTAs. You could just see he's a year further into it, that the decisions are being made quicker and faster each time he gets a rep at it, just like a lot of quarterbacks in this league, right? They get better with their decision making over time, and so you're definitely going to see that. You'll still see his playmaking ability with his feet. I saw a more accurate passer in OTAs. Now he's got to go and continue to improve every single day. But I really thought he had great progress in OTAs. He's just got to continue to ride the momentum of that through training camp each and every day.
What about your comfort level?
Bradbury and Jaquaski Tart. What was it about those two guys that you liked in that position?
How do you let him, like, when do you give up in that, like, a question that you're just like, at what point? You just gave up. He was totally resigned. At halfway through, just, there you go. I'm sorry, I was thinking about my answer. What was the question?
Tart and Bradbury, late off-season signings. What was it about those two guys?
You can get a guy late in signing. Remember that first week? We didn't do anything.
I know.
When nothing happened.
Mark says league meetings were fun. Those league meetings were fun. How do you answer the fans who say you've done nothing this offseason? So, I think for Bradbury, this is a guy that we spent a lot of time evaluating as he came out. We didn't have a second-round pick that year. Competed against him in Carolina and the Giants, had a lot of respect for the player and the person, and was excited to get the opportunity to get him into Philadelphia. Obviously, you've seen him going against the guys in the NFC East, which is a big part of us. The NFC East is our first goal that Coach outlines with the team. And then with Tart, we always try to kind of keep looking at our boards. Our scouting department does a great job of keeping our boards updated and telling us who the top guys on those lists are. And he kept kind of showing up. And this is a guy who's played 7 years on a very good defense in San Francisco, played at a high level, played in big games, has the right temperament. So we're excited to add him to the team as well.
Nick, your comfort level in year two, and you too, Howie, as far as being more comfortable, understanding what the staff wants. How is it different for you guys this year as opposed to coming into camp last year?
You can just see how much further you are along, right? There's a lot less questions on how things are run. I mean, it's just everything. The first year you're figuring different things out as you go, and so that year experience is huge amongst the coaches, coaches to players relationship, coaches to coaches relationship, and coaches to front office relationship.
I think when you go into the first year, you never know how people are going to handle adversity, and that's players, that's coaches when they first get here. And I think just last year, watching how Coach, in particular, and his staff handled adversity, like we talked about in this city, we were 2-5, and handling that and being consistent, I thought was really impressive. So obviously, when you go through something like that, you have an understanding of how people are going to deal with certain situations. And so going into the second year, you don't have any of that unknown. You know who the person is, and you know how they're going to handle situations.
Howie, you were around the last time.
Did you tell the guys about expectations coming in?
Brought in a big-time receiver.
He's gone. He was in the he was like 3 sentences into it.
Martin and then back to Gross. I got a really good question. All right.
Kind of following up on what Howie was asked about expectations, like what do you tell the guys, or what did you tell the guys yesterday about the heightened expectations for this season, kind of keep them?
Yeah, I mean, expectations, right? I mean, again, like Howie said, this is Philly, right? And so I didn't feel like expectations weren't high last year, right? Whether somebody said they weren't or somebody said they weren't, they were high. Our standard was high, and I know the city's standard was high. And so that's not new. Now, as far as what I said to them, my message to them was very clear. Like, I can't tell you how many times this year or this summer somebody's come up to me and said, hey, NFC East, then we're going to go and we're going to have a home playoff game, then we're going to win that one, then we'll just see what happens. Like, well, we got training camp to do, right? And that's every day you have to go through this process. And I think I've talked about this before. Like, when you're trying to climb a mountain, you don't look at the top of the mountain and say, you might initially, but you don't look at the top of the mountain every single day and like, I got to climb that. You look at the part of the mountain you got to climb that day, and you focus on that. And that's what training camp's about. You focus on the daily deposits. That was my message yesterday. We talked about a track runner. Devin Allen was very into the story. So we talked about a track runner that made daily deposits, and when it was time to cash a check, his check didn't bounce. He had the money in the bank because every single day he worked hard. He worked hard every single day to make sure that he was ready for the Olympics. That's the same thing with us. We get all the expectations are great, everything there, but it's day by day, and it's what are we going to do today to be ready to have a good preseason game number one, and so on and so forth. So daily deposits, and that doesn't matter. And if you live in that world, then it doesn't matter if you're an underdog, if your expectations are high. You're just working on how you get better every single day, and that's all we're focused on.
Have you climbed a lot of mountains, Coach?
I've never climbed a mountain. Never. I've done the little thing on the side with the.
I think the other thing we talk about a lot is our most talented teams have not necessarily been our best teams, and so like you could have all this talent, but them coming together and fitting the right pieces in place is the most important thing. And so that's what this camp's for, coming together as a team and making sure that the talent meets connection and goes into a place with the season where we're feeling really good about the people.
You remember last time you guys brought in T.O. It was 2004, another receiver. There was a lot of excitement. You were at that camp. Is there any type of that excitement, not just with A.J., but with the off-season acquisitions you made? Do you feel that?
Well, I'll tell you what you feel. You just feel the passion for football in this city. And I think that's exciting, that whenever you're going somewhere, people are excited for Eagles football. They can't wait, even though it's kind of, ending some of the summer here, that people go, I can't wait for Eagles football. Whenever I go somewhere, I feel that. But again, like I think where we are, like we have a long way to go in trying to bring this team together and trying to pick the best guys on this team. So I think we're just trying to stay in the moment and make sure we have a good day-to-day here and we have a good training camp.
How coach you since the personnel department moves? What will the losses of Andy Weidel and Tom Donahoe mean for that department?
Yeah, I think you start with Tom. I mean, somebody that had been here a long time, that I was extremely close with personally and professionally, and just very appreciative of his efforts for us. And so I think that you never really replace that guy. You just Sean Bradley, everyone. I think you know, obviously we need more experience, and I think that's when you have Dave and Matt. That's what they'll try to fill that role of having people experience who've been around the league for a long time. And then Andy, you know, Andy was here since 16. We won a lot of games together, and obviously, like, you know, he was my right hand for a lot of things that we were doing and we were talking about. And I know for his family, it's very cool for him to be in Pittsburgh and his family to be in Pittsburgh, where they have a lot of family and the opportunity he has. But, you know, I definitely miss those guys. And
As we look at the safety depth chart, this offseason of having A.J. Brown as part of the team, but from a player perspective and maybe even coaches, as you're starting to put more plays together.
Yeah, he can do it. Obviously, his resume speaks for itself. He does a lot of things really well, and we're happy to have him, obviously. And it's, yeah, the better your players, the better coach you are, and that's no secret. And our job is to get the most out of those players as we possibly can and maximize their potential. And just excited to have him. And yeah, he'll fit in nicely.
Howie, as you look at the safety depth chart, are you happy with where you stand there, or do you view that spot similar to positions in the past where you're looking at what you have and then in training camp up there?
I don't know that I ever look at our depth chart and feel content. You know, I think it's a situation because of the nature of this game where you're always kind of looking forward to what's next and have to look forward to what's next. I think when we talk about the safeties, a guy that we spent a lot of time talking about this offseason was Marcus Epps, and a guy who nobody works harder than Marcus. Here's a guy who obviously last year played in a rotation with those guys, and you want your young players to step up and develop more of a role. That's why we have a player development program. That's why we have these coaches. So with him and the veteran guys we have, plus we have a couple of young players in that group. You know, Kayvon needs to take a bigger step. We brought in some young players as well behind those guys. You know, it's like every position. We'll evaluate it, and we'll constantly be on the lookout to improve the roster. It's, you know, team building's a constant thing here. And so I don't know that I feel content in any position that I'd say, hey, we're good.
Howie, we can obviously hear the excitement from fans as players walk on the field. You've been around long enough, a lot of us have been around long enough to remember what it was like at Lehigh when thousands could come out every day. What are the advantages of being here? And can you talk about, now that you've done it for a while, what benefits you feel like you get by having camp here as opposed to Lehigh?
Sleeping in my own bed versus a dorm bed's a big advantage, for sure. And I think when you talk about players and them sleeping in dorm beds, with what we know about performance now, we know that affects them. You know, them not being able to sleep in the same kind of beds, having the same performance related aspects that we have, cryo, massages, all of that. For us, you know, this facility was built, it was an amazing facility. The cafeteria, the access they have to nutrition, for all of us being able to have our systems in place here, which when you go up to Lehigh is harder. But there's give and takes. I mean, I loved coming out there, and, you know, you'd ask every day, how big are the crowds? And you certainly can't have that crowd. So I think both have their pluses and minuses. Obviously, you know, we're here now. And
When it comes to the offensive line and specifically right guard, what has been your messaging and Scott's messaging to the entire group, specifically that spot?
You know, that is such an important group for the cohesion of the unit to be together and going. And Isaac's been in that group for a long time. And he's played really well. And so I look forward to having him back. And then, you know, among the rest of the guys fighting for spots, you know, it's the more positions they can play, the better, right? And so looking forward to what, you know, that the competition of all those roles of not only the starting positions at every position, but also the backups. And we've just had a lot of good depth at the offensive line for a long time. A tribute to Howie and his staff. They've done a great job of getting us depth, and Stout and has done a great job of developing those players. So looking forward to all the competitions that are happening throughout the entire training camp.
So is that our second year with Jalen Hurts? How much more comfortable are you with him? What makes him tick? How to coach him, but also, you know, what he likes, what he's comfortable with, and what he excels at in the offense, and how many adjustments?
Yeah, you know, again, the more you know somebody, both personally and about their style of play, the more you can adapt the plan to them, and we're constantly learning that. Now, we got a much better understanding this year than we did last year. We have 18 games, of proof of what he likes and what he tells us, and on a whole year of a relationship. So, yeah, we feel like we've narrowed it down to the things that he likes, the things that he does well. Not only Jalen, but that's other positions too. You don't ask a receiver to run a route they can't run. You don't ask a running back to read a play that they can't read. You don't ask the offensive line to run a scheme that they can't run. So it's the entire group, and obviously Jalen's at our first thought of our mind is about Jalen because he's got so much on his plate.
Speaking of Jalen, notice your shirt, love it. First day of training camp sets the tone. What made you pick that one?
Hey, he's our quarterback, and I think this was the best one I had clean. I do my own laundry, so it was the best one I had clean, and this is the one I picked. I think so. This was something I got from my brother. Actually, my brother's a college football coach, and one thing he always liked to do was wear the high school that they don't make these players they don't make these for Division III college players. But what he would always do is he would wear a shirt from the high school that they went to. And he always had this wide variety of shirt. He told me why he had it. He's like, it's just an easy way to connect with a player. And so what better way to connect with him than wear his shirt with his face in the middle of it. So that's the why. We have it always has a conversation off of that.
Do you feel like he needs to support or defend Jalen Hurts from any outside criticism by wearing shirts and hats?
No.
How many padded practices do you expect to have in his first 10?
Padded practices? I don't know the answer to that exactly off the top of my head. I have to look at a schedule and let you know. We're not allowed to until I don't know all the rules off the top of my head.
I don't know, Jeff. Like the last time a team went on the road to practice against another team, I think that's part of how hard this camp is. Like, what's that? Back to back, right?
So basically, you're saying because you have these two inter-squad things coming up, you're going to go lighter in each.
No.
Yeah. I was just adding that's hard to do, like to go back to back and compete 2 weeks in a row on the road.
Your scheduled walkthroughs before the first preseason game, that's different than last year. Why more walkthroughs and fewer practices?
Well, this first one, it's all about player health. It's all about what went down last year, our numbers of as far as, the soft tissue injuries, right? And so our third day, which tomorrow would be our third day, they had a hard conditioning yesterday, right? They're going to have an intense practice today, and our third day numbers tell us, throughout, not only on our team but throughout the league, that soft tissue injuries shoot up that day. So that's the reason for that. And then those are the same data that we're following for those other 3 walkthroughs that we're going to have. Is it different? Yes, than what we did last year. But the other thing that you're getting more high volume days because of that walkthrough there. So, we have we have a green day, a yellow day, and a red day. And so yes, we have a couple more walkthroughs than what we had, but there's more green days now, which means there's more high intensity practices where so the distances are actually of how much we're running at the skill positions, how much we're running at every position is going to be more in this camp than it was at last camp, but it's just a different way of how we get there. So it's all educated. And that doesn't mean we're not going to get soft tissue injuries, right? There's going to be, there's probably going to be some, right? But we're doing as much as we possibly can to prevent those things. Now, my job is to make sure that the team is ready to play, right? And so I have to listen to the experts, right? I have to listen to our doctors. I have to listen to our strength and performance staff, and I have to listen to our trainers. But at the end of the day, I have to make sure the team's ready to play. So it isn't just blind faith following. It's educated of how we're doing these things, and then, like I said, sometimes I have to make hard decisions on what to do and what not to do.
All right.
He had one question. I told him I would get him. I like the shirt, so I can.
You typically always build through the trenches, but this specific season, the defensive tackle rotation seems stronger than usual. Did you put a specific emphasis on the interior defensive line where you have 4 starting caliber players at that spot rather than just both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I think in terms of the draft, the last 2 years with Milton and Jordan, it was based on our draft board in terms of those guys. But I think you've seen over the last few years kind of an increased emphasis from us as a front office in interior pass rushers. And when you look at it and you look at kind of the quarterbacks who are really effective in this league, you have to make sure that you're affecting them in the middle and getting in their face and doing things, because sometimes with edge rushers, they can step up and have a clear throwing lane. So we want to have both those things, obviously, but I think we've seen in the last couple of years for us increased emphasis on having interior defensive linemen who can create pressure.
Thank you.
Let's get out of here.